Thank you, Council. Ladies and gentlemen, staff, we'll begin this meeting. We'll call it to order. And we begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and regions of Southwest Middlesex. We convey our respect to our Indigenous neighbors and thank them for their contributions to our culture, community, our past, and partnerships of the future. Today's meeting may be streamed live as well as recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. Council, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we will move on. We have lots to unpack tonight. The agenda has been circulated. The recommendation is that the agenda of May 22nd be accepted as presented. Are there any additions? Yes.
There's been an addition of the Leonard Street naming and dedication bylaw that was received today. So it will be referred to in the bylaw section.
Okay. That's a street in Melbourne, and we will add that. So the recommendation would be that council accept the agenda as presented with the addition of the bylaw concerning Leonard Street in Melbourne. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councillor Myers, Councillor Choi, discussion. All in favor? Carried. Delegations and presentations. Nelson, we're pleased to have you with us tonight. Stan Tech Consulting, come on up, and Kendra will make sure you're comfortable there, and she'll get you wired up there, okay? Yeah, Kendra, could you turn that on for him? Yeah.
Okay to sit?
Yep. Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Nelson, welcome to Southwest Middlesex. We look forward to your presentation. We'll give you a few minutes of extra time. This is a big deal, so you do what you have to do, okay?
There it is, for having me in today, just to explain the progress of the Victoria Street Sewage Pump Station Force Main project. So my name is Nelson Olivera with Stantec Consulting. I'm the project manager for this and also the regional business leader for our water practice in Canada East. I have a quick presentation just to talk about the existing system itself and what we've been doing since we were retained in October of last year. All right, so I just want to do a bit of an overview here for members of council and the public who may not be aware of your existing assets. So essentially, your existing system within Glencoe, in addition to the wastewater plant, consists of 2 pump stations. The Victoria Street pump station, I'll talk a lot about that today, and the industrial pump station. Both pump stations actually share a common force main. That's a high pressure force main that directs all flow to the wastewater plant where it's then treated. The Victoria pump station itself, which obviously is off Victoria Street there, it actually consists of 2 wet wells. This structure was built about 1970s. There's about a 2.4 square meter wet well. In about the early 2000s, there was an addition of a 3-meter diameter wet well, and that was due to the growth of the community and also at that time, likely some issues with flows getting into the system. Downstream of that pump station, it's about 1.5 kilometers of force main, and that's just because your wastewater plant's on the other side of municipal drain. I believe there's a presentation on that today. And so you convey all the flow from the pump station there. Industrial pump station also connects into that force main. That's really important when we are looking at the problems that we've been experiencing in the system. That connects about 1.1 kilometers downstream of Victoria. So let's say about 400 meters upstream of the wastewater plant. What's really interesting here, and I'll talk about a little bit more, but currently the Victoria pump station is rated for about 37 liters a second per pump. There's 2 pumps in total. They're submersible pumps. When they operate together, which we normally see under high demand conditions, high flows, it can only do about 44 liters a second. So that's a little bit about your existing system. Now, why am I here today? I'm sure you all know, but really we have been witnessing a lot of issues in terms of wet weather flows. In particular, I think Aqua has done a great job in managing or operating the system. Under wet weather events, we are seeing significant inflow getting into the wet wells to a point where the pumps cannot keep up. This is also a follow-up to the previous water and wastewater master plan that WSP did on behalf of the municipality, which identified that there's something going on in the system itself. Perfect. So what have we completed to date since October? I'm sure everyone wants to know. Well, first of all, we reviewed as much available data as we could get from the wastewater plant and the pump stations. That includes flow meters and whatnot. What we did confirm in using your design center is that the data set, the flows really don't capture what the issue is. If you look at the flows, even on average, it looks like everything's fine. What we're not capturing is what happens when the vac X trucks are having to go out to the site to pump out flows during these wet weather events that we had in August of 2022, and we've had already 2 this year in January and April. What we did confirm through that, though, is that normal contributions, I&I and all that, even when factoring that aggressively, it did not explain what we were hearing from operations staff. In other words, there's something we suspect it's cross connections in terms of storm contributions that's actually getting into the sanitary system. And those are relatively significant. I mentioned about the January and April events. Why those were important is that we missed the August event from last year. We didn't get working on it until October. But this year we've had 2 events in January and April. And as you can see in the presentation, what we're able to do with the help of the municipality and Aqua is capture not just the flows that we're witnessing coming through the pipe, but also the amount of vac X that was occurring with the contractors arriving on site. Your January event added up to about 56 liters a second of flow based on our calculations. The one recently where you lost power, we estimate about 94 liters a second. If you recall from the previous slide, your pump station can only do about 44. So that would explain why for every flow coming in, your 96 coming in, you've got about 50 liters a second that's surcharging your system. So it's getting above the wet well, it's getting into basements. And that's obviously the concern. Honestly, that's the smoking gun that we were looking for. We also confirmed the hydraulic analysis to assess, well, what is good and what has to get replaced. And that certainly confirmed that the force main, which is only 8 inches in diameter, is grossly undersized for these sort of flows, and that it certainly needs to be replaced. That triggered us then initiating immediately the topographic survey. So that has since been complete, and that's for the entire force main alignment. We've also began the geotechnical investigation through the municipality third-party vendor that has currently already drilled the boreholes. And this is all information that we need for the actual design. And then more importantly, as we surveyed the information, we also determined that the original force main, which was built within the easement acquired in the 1970s, while it was installed in the middle of the easement, which meant that to install a new force main now, there's no room to do it. So we're working with the municipality to figure out how much more land we need to acquire to give you room to construct while not impacting the existing force main, because obviously we can't interfere with flow until the new system's up and running. Next slide. Oh, there it is. Sorry. In terms of what we're recommending, so we've completed the hydraulic analysis. The 200 millimeter 8-inch force main, we're recommending that be completely replaced with a 350 millimeter force main. That'll provide sufficient capacity. We also need to balance to make sure we don't create odors in the system, or we create low velocities, which can then be an operational nightmare because solids build up in the force main. We are also looking to replace the 2 pumps in the wet well. We do have a confined area, so we have to work within that. We're looking to replace those. So remember, the pumps are about 36 liters a second each. We're looking to replace them with about 97 liters a second each. Both pumps in parallel will operate at about 120 liters a second. The intent there is, again, to address at least the known wet weather flows. That will also require an upgrade to the valve chamber at the pump station site. And then we're also going to do or use what we call VFDs, or variable frequency drives, which is going to allow the pumps to slow down when we're under normal demands in the system. That's really important. We don't want a shop vac occurring in your wet well. It also allows us to still maintain the velocity so that we can hand this over to the municipality in Aqua and have, a system that can operate well. The detailed design of the sewage pump station is currently underway. The plan and profiles actually for the force main are near complete. We're awaiting on the geotechnical. So we anticipate getting that project out very, very soon. In terms of key items, I talked a little bit about that. So the geotech we're waiting to incorporate into the design drawings for the force main, as well as the pump station for the valve chamber. We are currently preparing the permanent approval packages. This does have to go through the MECP. However, the municipality has a consolidated license now. So we'll actually be working with the municipality to get the permits and approvals in place, which is really good. We don't anticipate any dewatering permits through the ministry, so we don't anticipate any prolonged sort of delays in getting those sort of permits in place. We are actively working on the tender specifications actually for the force main, and we anticipate that one could be released in about late June, that we can get that out on the street and force main constructed. We believe the sewage pump station, which is a little bit more complicated, needs a bit more time. August, September being about the timeline to get that out. It's a full overhaul of the electrical and control system as well to make this system work a bit better. And then more importantly, and I want to note here, is that we do look at this as a key part of a longer term strategy to protect the town. The issues with the upstream conveyance system, we are working with the municipality to identify how best to put a plan in place so that the municipality can look at finding out where these storm contributions are occurring and finding an alternate path for them to go to. Because if you imagine any significant storm event is right now a good part of this getting into your system. So we're looking at doing a really key part, but ideally to extend a plan at least to provide the municipality a way to get this into future capital planning initiatives. I think that's it in terms of the presentation. I know there's likely going to be a lot of questions, so I want to make sure there's time.
Thank you, Nelson, very much. Yes, Council, this is our opportunity to ask questions to the chair, to Nelson, and I'm watching for hands there. Okay. Yeah, Mike, Councilor Scholler.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. This is actually a question for Kendra. Would it be possible to get that emailed to us, the presentation? Thanks.
Okay. Well, it's Nelson, it's very good news. We want to rectify this problem. We know that it's been ongoing for a very long time, and it's on the table now, and we want to make sure that we bring it to fruition. Yeah, it was a good presentation, very well explained, and I can see that, and I'm glad the timelines look like you're pushing this through as much. We all remember that August 23rd rain, and we certainly, no matter what the engineering is, I don't know whether something like that can be sustainable in a system. But what is it engineered for? Like what type of rainfall? Do you have a benchmark rainfall that you engineer, or a sewage that you engineer this for?
Well, to give a sense of the sort of, I'll call it sensitivity analysis we did, we use your design standards, which typically are conservative. They're meant to be. This is mostly for designing pipes in the ground that you don't want to replace because it's expensive. When we applied your design criteria, I think at best, even with full build out or quite a bit more build out, we were only getting about 45 liters a second, and that was with peak flow. We then assumed that a certain number of roofs had their downspouts connected to the storm through underground piping. And again, when I say that, this is just an outcome of how these systems were built in the 70s. A lot of storms weren't in place. It was quite common. When we did that, we were horribly overestimated, even assuming 50% of the roof, but we were using a very significant, it was a 100-year storm event. So it's very hard to tell because if it's I&I inflow and infiltration, there's usually a bit more of a delay when I&I impacts a sanitary system. There's some form of way for it to get in. If it's roof leaders with the downspout, it's an almost immediate reaction. We're not quite sure if it's fully downspout, but we are pretty confident it's at least some pumps. And the reason for that, the April event, you had a power outage. And while the power outage occurred, you were exceeding the capacity of the plant just due to the other way that water was getting in, maybe through downspouts, obviously through sewage. The storm then subsided. Everything went back to normal. The sucker trucks actually left the site. The power was reestablished, and the capacity of the station was almost exceeded. So we know there's something being driven by sump pumps, which is the reason why they wouldn't have contributed when the power was out. So it's really hard to say. I'm not sure if I answered that very well. We're trying to find all the reasons that could be attributed to it. As much as I don't want another storm to occur before we can get a solution, and that last storm provided a lot of good insight. And another reason why we want to really try to help find the upstream cause so that we can get further away from this happening again.
No, I chatted with Aqua last night, and they said that we came very close in that last rainfall, that we were on the threshold of getting sucker trucks.
Exactly.
Okay, Council, yes, Councillor Vink, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. How will you try and find these alternative sources?
There's a number of ways we can do things, and Aqua's done some of this in the past, like smoke testing. There's flow monitoring that we can do. Now, the area in question is a little bit larger from what we obtained from the municipality. And again, that's just going back to the age of construction. What we've done before, and we've assisted areas like Region Niagara and whatnot in the past, is try to hone in on certain areas at a time. And with flow monitoring, see how those are responding under storm events. If we start to see that they're not really responding under a storm event, or through, say, additional CCTV to see if there's any sort of flows coming in, we can start to eliminate areas and then hone in on other areas. So it's a little bit of a flow monitoring, likely some smoke testing as well. There's also the ability to visually see if we see downspouts going underground in any way and not breaking to surface. And for example, City of Toronto often does that on some of their basement flooding reduction program, is a walkthrough will look at whether downspouts are actually going underground. That's usually a sign that it's got to go to a pipe or something, or possibly eventually get to your sump pump. So there's a few visual ways we can do it, a few that we can do through flow monitoring that's a little bit longer term. We want to capture at least the wet weather events of every year. So a few tools that we can call up if needed.
Okay, yes, Deputy Mayor Schultes.
Do you know how much additional width you'll need on the easement?
I knew I should have that number with me, but I believe Morrow, you made bulk.
Yes, it's an additional 5 meters that we'll need. And then there'll be also a working easement that we'll be looking forward to, just in order to stockpile some material. But it'll be an additional 5 meters in total that we need.
Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I believe it runs along the Glencoe, that drain and that pond at the greenhouse. Is there enough room in there, if you need additional room? Because I know that's fairly tight in there.
We have been under consultation with the different landowners, and we believe that we do have the land through them. So discussions have been going very positive so far. We do have a little play if we had to narrow a certain area by all means, but we believe that 5 meters will give us room to, well, a couple of things is to build the force main. We don't want to load on top of your existing force main. Your existing force main is actually what we call gray pipe. It's a thin wall pipe. So the last thing we want is actually to break the pipe while we're building the new one. So that'll give us room to not only build the pipe, but to side cast the material, so that we can also safely put the material in, because we don't want to scar the land as well. We know that there's also some farming that gets near there, so we want to stay as far away from that as possible. That gives us a good zone, and so far, we believe we have it through those discussions.
Good. Any further questions? Well, and it's going to cost money, and that's when Kristen will come on the scene and guide us through this. So thank you very much, Nelson. We appreciate your report, and we look forward to that commencing as soon as possible.
Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you. Council, just a motion that we received the Stantec consulting report for information. Is there a mover and a seconder? Okay, Councillor Myers, Councillor Haggett. Questions? In favor? Carried. Proceed for information. George, you're on for Street and Associates. Glencoe Outlet, important as well.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a visual presentation, just a verbal presentation tonight. We've been actively working on this since appointment. We've gone through and we've collected survey data on all the pipe networks that are connected into the system. Now we've established what has been connected to the system and connected to. So this system, I guess, works in parallel with the system that runs down Park House and dumps out into the Glencoe outlet ditch, open ditch. There's a pipe system that goes from the north and then west there into Victoria Street and then connected to Main. And then there's a secondary system that goes down Park House. So these systems work in parallel, and we've been trying to tie what portions of town have been connected. The storm mapping for the town has been intermittent at times, so it's difficult through just records alone. So we went through most of town, or at least the portions that were anticipated to be connected to the system, and we've tied that down. We've also collected the topographic survey data we need, because when you're designing a storm system, you essentially have to design from the top to the bottom, meaning that when we replace the sewers in the upstream in the future, you will have enough capacity at the bottom to accommodate those flows. You know, we don't design for what flow is coming there now, we design it for what flow is going to be coming there in the future when these roads get rebuilt over time, over the next, you know, if we design this thing for 50 or 75 years, you want to make sure that's got the capacity to handle any flows that would come there in the next 50 to 75 years. So what we've done is we've established what we call a storm area plan, or a service plan essentially for that. What we're aiming to do probably early to mid-July is deliver a report, a design brief to both staff and the county to, you know, summarize our findings, talk about the capacity of the existing, talking about what sort of improvement you're going to need to make to the pipe system of the Glencoe outlet drain, to bring it up first off to at least the minimal standard of the township standard, the 2-year design storm. For that's what your guys' current standard is, but also look at options of going larger, just based on the fact that we have, you know, generally flat topography in town. We have heavy soils. We have, you know, a lot of instances of flooding. So there might be financial benefit to look at maybe a 5 or 10-year storm, something a little larger than what would be, you know, historically constructed. You know, a lot of municipalities have shifted to a 5-year standard rather than the 2-year standard, just because we do notice that we're getting more frequent flooding events in these communities. So that would be a target for July. Once we have that, we can finalize detailed design. As Stantec works through their alignment, we would align our alignment to work, you know, around their stuff. Fortunately, through the Drainage Act, we have a little bit more flexibility on easements. They have what's a registered easement. We have what's called a right-of-way under the Drainage Act, and that gives us flexibility. It doesn't have to be surveyed and staked out. It's just registered through the report, and it's more flexible. So we'll work around them to make sure our alignment works there. At which point we will have to have some public meetings with everybody affected, and we'll go from there. I don't know if there's, I guess I'll take an opportunity for questions here. As far as the open channel goes, we need to finalize the design of the pipe system first, because the design, the size, and also the depth of the pipe system will impact the channel, right? So we can design the channel for a 2-year design and move on, but we think it's better to wait to make sure that if there are any requests for improvement upstream beyond the typical municipal standard, then we would be looking at accommodating that as well, and making sure that channel is going to allow that pipe to flow freely, during large storm events, and make sure it handles the flow as well. So I'd take that opportunity for questions. And
Thank you. We'll introduce that option to council right now. George, you alluded to weather. We know that the future will be warmer and wetter. So that seems to be the benchmarks that are going to be forthcoming. Council, let's take George up with his invitation for questions. Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. You mentioned this is going to be handled as a municipal drain. So how are the costs going to be apportioned?
thank you, Councillor Vink. So there's a couple of options here, and we will get through this in more detail as we progress. Obviously, the first step is to figure out the solution and what the cost is. After that,
we can work through it. We can assess it in various ways. There's a couple main ways that I would recommend. Either because it is mostly an urban system, you could elect to pay through it through storm fees like you would if it was not a municipal drain. Another option would be to charge it out as a municipal drain. Within that option, every person who contributes water to it would contribute outlet cost towards it. Most of the benefit would be to the municipality as it would be servicing the road network. But as far as outlet would be assessed to landowners contributing water. And then you could either assess that as what's called a block assessment. So anybody within the block would pay based on their assessed value of their property, or you could base it on actual land area contributing to it. So those are both options we could look at. I would recommend probably with an urban standard like this and an urban situation, you would likely want to debenture it over 5 or 10 years and, collect those payments. They wouldn't be large, but, it's an unexpected bill for a lot of people. And that way, you could debenture it and give people that opportunity to pay it slowly and just add it on their taxes for 5 years. That would all be, consulted with the municipality as we proceed forward. And if there are going to be assessments to landowners, we would certainly be having public meetings, conveying the intent of doing so and receiving feedback and making sure that's the direction that council wishes to proceed.
Okay. Thank you. Additional questions, council? Councillor McGill?
Yeah, through the mayor to George, how would that 5-year standard compare to, I think for an ordinary agricultural municipal drain, it's 1.5 inches for 24 hours?
Yes, through you, Mayor, Mr. Mayor. Typically, when we're designing storm sewers, we do what's called an intensity. When you're doing just a single street, your intensity would be typically 3 inches in an hour, roughly. So, we're talking an agricultural standard, we're talking over 24 hours. You're now going to per hour. So if you're, 3 times 24 is 72. If you're doing a larger system that's servicing a whole town, you might be closer to 2 inches in an hour or 48, right? So, inches. So you're, talking to the magnitude of 10 to 20 times probably a storm sewer compared to an agricultural. It is a little bit different as there's runoff factors and various things that contribute, time and concentration, et cetera, that contribute to a storm sewer design. But, just kind of the intensity to the intensity would be, talking 1.5 inches versus probably 50 inches.
Okay, thank you. Last call for questions. Okay, George, I want to thank you very much. I'd like to get this on the record that the presentation was made. Council, I'll receive a motion that we receive the report from Street and Associates for information. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councillor Choi, Councillor McGill. All in favor? Thank you. George, thank you. We look forward to hearing with you and make haste, okay? We need this.
Yes, we will continue to prioritize this.
Okay.
I'm going to stay seated for our next couple public meetings here.
Okay, great. Council, we are now at the consent agenda. There's not much on it, just the minutes of May 8th. Is there a mover and a seconder that we receive the account agenda? Councillor Bink, Councillor McCollum, questions on that minutes that were submitted? Yep, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, okay, we got it. Any questions? All in favor? It's carried. Council, we have some planning issues before us. I need a recommendation that council move into committee of adjustment at 6:28 p.m. Mover and a seconder, Councillor McGill, Councillor Choi. All in favor? Carried. We have called this committee of adjustment to order. Council, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we can go on. The minutes of the last Committee of Adjustment meeting were April 17th. They have been circulated. Mover and seconder to adopt those. Councillor Choi, Councillor McCollum, all in favor? Carried. Alana, you got lots of work to do tonight. Could you walk us through 2465 Longwoods, the Van Bergstedt property?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So as committee may recall, consent application B4-2022, which proposed to facilitate the disposal of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation for a property municipally known as 2465 Longwoods Road, was conditionally approved on June 22nd, 2022. Condition 5 of the consent application requires that the rear lot line be relocated 3 meters from the top of bank of the waterway on the property. In May 2024, the applicants provided a letter requesting to remove the condition, which can be found attached to the planning report. The applicants have advised they do not believe the 3-meter setback from top of bank is required to prevent fragmentation of the waterway. And also the 3-meter setback would result in the rear lot line cutting through the existing shed and encroaching on the well. Staff have evaluated the request to amend conditions. The intent of requiring the rear lot line for the lot to be severed to be set back 3 meters from the top of bank was to prevent fragmentation of the open waterway. No concerns have been raised by the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority or Building Services. Staff is of the opinion the request to remove condition number 10 would be considered reasonable and would maintain consistency with the provincial policy statement and conformity with both the county and Southwest Middlesex official plans. Therefore, staff recommend the request to remove condition number 10 of application B4-2022 be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. There's a process, council, as you're aware of, and the visitors we have in the gallery. The applicant will be allowed the opportunity to speak if they so wish, if they're present. Okay. Seeing no hands. Committee members' remarks. Council, any questions you'd like to address to Alana on this? Yes, Councillor Vink.
I just want to make sure that we're dealing with the right issue here. So now the line is going to be right at the edge of the creek, is that right?
Correct. Oh, sorry. 3. Correct. So the lot line would, instead of being shifted upward 3 meters, it would just be along the stream or along the top bank of the stream.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. Have there been any oral submissions or delegates that wish to speak to this? There's none. Any written submissions, Kendra? Applicant's final remarks, they're not with us, I don't believe, or if there is any. Or okay, yeah. Very good, okay. Committee decision. The recommendation has been put before you to request to remove condition 10 of the consent application B4-2022, and then the recommendation is it be granted. Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Scholdice, Councillor Vink. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Continuing on, Alana, 4B, Parkhouse Drive, 4587.
Sorry, through you, Mayor. So as committee may recall, consent application B5-2024, which proposed to facilitate the disposal of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation for a property known as 4587 Parkhouse Drive, was conditionally approved on April 17th, 2024. For condition number 5 of the decision, the applicant is required to demonstrate an adequate and potable water supply exists and is required to decommission the existing well, as it was indicated in the consent application that the house is to be serviced by municipal piped water. Additionally, for condition number 7, the applicant is required to remove the storage shed and 2 barns on the lands. As it was indicated, the buildings were in poor condition and were to be removed by the applicant when they had the opportunity to clear out the buildings. In May 2024, the applicant provided a letter requesting to amend the conditions, which can be found attached to the planning report. For condition number 5, the applicant is seeking to remove the requirement to decommission the well and instead require the well to be disconnected from the dwelling. The applicants advise a new submersible pump was installed 4 years ago, and adequate flow is present for the well to be used for agricultural purposes. Additionally, the applicants requested to amend condition number 7 to retain the storage shed and 2 barns on the retained lands. The applicants advised there is a misunderstanding in regards to the conditions of the buildings and that despite their age, the buildings are structurally sound and still insured. It was indicated that the shed could provide shelter for small farm equipment, and the applicants intend to clean up the barns in the future once feasible. Staff have evaluated the request to amend conditions. The intent of requiring the well to be decommissioned as a condition of consent was to ensure the dwelling is only serviced by municipal piped water connection. Since the well also services the farm and is located on the lands to be retained, and the applicant indicated they wish to continue to use the well for the farm, retaining the well on the lands to be retained would not be considered unreasonable. The manager of public works advised if the applicant wishes to retain the well on the retained lands, the well should be disconnected from the dwelling, and the municipality will require proof of disconnection. Since the applicants have clarified the farm buildings are structurally sound and intended to continue to be used for the farm, staff do not have concerns with retaining the farm buildings, provided that a change of use permit be obtained for the barns to ensure no livestock are housed in the buildings. Building Services has advised the change of use permit would include removing any livestock stalls should they be present in the barns. The change of use permit may also require the removal of water connections to the barns at the discretion of the chief building official. In addition, any hydro connections should be disconnected from the severed lands. Staff is of the opinion the request to amend conditions 5 and 7 would be considered reasonable and would maintain consistency with the provincial policy statement and conformity with both the county and Southwest Middlesex official plans. Therefore, staff recommend the conditions be amended as outlined in the report for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Okay, Alana, thank you. The applicant has the opportunity to speak at the present. They're not with us electronically. Committee members, any questions? Seeing none. Kendra, have there been any oral submissions or written submissions? Applicant is not here for final remarks. Committee decision. The conditions of consent are before you. What's council's wish on this? Yes, Councillor Choi, to move it, and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Myers, questions? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Vink.
This might not make me too popular, but since hydro connections will be disconnected from the severed land. So, but yet the well is going to be working. So how is the well going to work if the hydro is severed from the severed land?
Yeah, common sense question. Alana, take note of that if you got, I'm not sure whether you have an answer or not, but take note of that, and you'll certainly have to pursue perhaps a conversation on that. Okay, thanks, Councillor Vink, for bringing that up. Okay, the recommendation is for consent. We have a mover and a second for that. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. Alana, we are now on 2835 River Drive, the Betts property. Could you advise council of the purpose and effect of this application?
Certainly, thank you, Your Worship. So the purpose and effect of the application for consent is to sever a parcel of land to facilitate the disposal of a surplus farm dwelling as a result of farm consolidation. The lands to be severed would contain a single detached dwelling, detached garage, a barn, and 2 sheds, and as applied for would be approximately 0.64 hectares in size or 1.6 acres. The retained lands would be vacant and 15.35 hectares in size or 38 acres. A 3rd shed is proposed to be removed as it would be located across the rear lot line of the lands to be severed. The provincial policy statement and County of Middlesex and Southwest Middlesex official plans generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas to dispose of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation subject to criteria. Staff is satisfied that farm consolidation has been achieved and the residents may be deemed surplus to the needs of the farming operation as a result of farm consolidation. Staff is of the opinion the proposed severed lot is larger than necessary to accommodate the dwelling, as a portion of workable land along the rear lot line is proposed to be severed with the dwelling. Staff believe the rear lot line should be shifted towards River Drive to ensure the workable land is retained with the farm. Shifting the rear lot line of the severed lands would result in the lot being in conformity with the surplus farm dwelling severance policies. Staff would also like to note there is a stream located to the east of the barn, and staff believe it would be appropriate to shift the easterly lot line of the lands to be severed further east so that the lot line aligns with the top of bank of the stream. Additionally, as a condition of consent through the zoning bylaw amendment process, staff believe cumulative ground floor area for accessory buildings setback from the center line of River Drive and accessory buildings being located in the front yard can be appropriately addressed. Overall, all other criteria have been met or are capable of being met as a condition of consent. In regards to agency comments, comments were received from the chief building official, public works manager, drainage superintendent, and St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, as well as the county engineer. These comments are included within the report. I would like to note after the writing of the report, a comment from Hydro One was received and no concerns were identified. No public comments have been received to date. Staff recommend that application for consent B8-2024 be approved subject to the 12 conditions in the report for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alana. I'm very pleased that you take into consideration those geophysical attributes on the land, the streams in particular. Mr. and Mrs. Betts have a chance to speak at this time. Are you okay? Yep.
So we are fine.
Yeah, yes, if you go to the microphone, Daryl, we have to be public on this, so, yeah, and Kendra will get you set up there.
So we are fine with the east lot line being moved to the top of the ditch, but we would like to keep the south line where we proposed. This allows access on the south side of the south shed instead of driving through the yard by the house. The extra depth of the lot that we want is sharply sloping land. It would be better grass than farmland. The difference in the depth of our proposal and the planner is only 4 meters, which increases the lot size by only 0.1 of an acre.
Okay, that's good to know. Yep. Okay, and thank you for those remarks, Daryl. Committee, it is our opportunity to ask questions and concerns. What is your wish? Is there, yes, yep, you have, yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Soldiers.
Could you just repeat again where you want that line? Yes, I'm just looking at here.
Which line?
Which line you want? 4 meters.
The south line, I want to maintain it where we proposed. And it's only 4 meters.
It's on the back side of the property.
South side, yeah.
Yeah, and follow up, Deputy Mayor. Okay, and subject to the 12 conditions. correct? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. I'll get a seconder of that, then I'll continue questions. Is there a seconder for that? You'll second that? Okay, thank you. Councillor Vink, questions continuing? Seeing none, we have been advised there's no oral or written submissions. Daryl, we appreciate those comments. It is our decision now, council, to make. All in favor of the motion that's on the table? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much, Daryl, for that.
Thank you.
Alana, we are on the McCollum property on Concession Drive, 3268 concession. Could you walk us through this, please?
Sorry, trying to share my screen. Okay. Mayor, through you. So the purpose and effect of this application is to sever a parcel of land to facilitate the disposal of a surplus farm dwelling as a result of a pending farm consolidation. The parcel to be severed would be approximately 0.27 hectares or 0.67 acres in size, and the parcel to be retained would be approximately 18 hectares or 44.5 acres in size. The provincial policy statement and both the County of Middlesex and Southwest Middlesex official plans generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas to dispose of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, subject to criteria. Staff are satisfied that the criteria for the surplus farm dwelling severance is capable of being met through conditions of consent, and staff is of the opinion the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the county and Southwest Middlesex official plans. In regards to agency comments were received from the chief building official, manager of public works, drainage superintendent, St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, and the county engineer. These comments are included within the report. Comments from Hydro One were received after the writing of this report, and no concerns were identified. No public comments have been received to date. Staff recommend that the consent application be granted subject to the 14 conditions noted in the report for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. The applicant will have the ability to speak if they wish and if they're present.
Hi, this is Adam McCollum.
Yep. How are you, Adam?
Well, thank you. And yourself?
Very well. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Just wanted to, I guess, just quickly go over the same kind of thing where it's a surplus farm dwelling. Our intent is to remove the dilapidated buildings around the house, sever the house off, and then make the rest all farmland.
Okay, thank you. I think our planners looked after you well, it appears.
Yes, thank you.
Committee members, any remarks? Seeing none, we will move on. I have not been advised of any oral or written submissions. I believe the applicant has said all he wished to, I believe. Adam, I don't want to cut you off, but thank you for joining us. It is our decision at this point, committee. What's your wish? The recommendation is that the application be granted subject to the 14 conditions. Moved by Councillor Haggett, seconded by Councillor Choi. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Kendra, that's a full list you had tonight. I think we've come to the end of that. Thank you very much for joining council. It's certainly a sign of spring when you see that many applications come into a meeting. And we wish all the owners well in their planning endeavors. Future meetings will be advised by staff. The chair will adjourn this committee meeting at 6:48. We will move back to our regular agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to move back to our regular council meeting at 6:48. Councillor Myers, Councillor Hagan, all in favor? Carried. We are at 7A, a meeting to consider the McGregor drain. Andrew is with us tonight, and thank you, Andrew, for joining us. And we also have our engineer here as well. We look forward to hearing on this this issue that's come to the table.
Thank you, Your Worship. We are here tonight to present a report on the McGregor Drain 2024. This was a request under Section 78 to improve an existing municipal drain. The existing drain is an open channel. It starts its head at Old Drive, just east of County Road 80, and then heads westerly where it outlets just past Oilfield Drive into the halfway between Oilfield and Argyle. The existing channel was experiencing a fair amount of erosion, and there was culverts that were beginning to need to be replaced. So there was initially some requests on the top end, but as we got talking with the owners, there was a request to do more work. So we went through here. There's approximately 3-kilometer stretch of channel here where we are replacing 5 culverts and also dealing with some erosion throughout the channel and also a clean out. So the estimated cost of this work, including administration, is $266,100. And if there's any questions, I would welcome them now for you.
Okay, you first of all, any questions from affected property owners present? Yeah, Dawn, you have one? Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Craven. Yeah. Dawn, it's going to be necessary for you to come forward and just say that on the microphone in order that the public can to hear it. Thank you very much. And Dawn, it's necessary to identify yourself for the record. Dawn Crawford.
Yep, Don Crawford. I'd like you to present a total reading of the contract, or I assume you have called tenders. Is that correct?
Through Your Worship, at this point, this is the consideration. Typically, tenders can't be awarded for construction until after the quarter revision. So typically, their tendering would occur either after tonight's meeting or after the quarter revision. So there hasn't been a public contract or tender at this point. That would be the next step in the process if this passes tonight.
That's what I want.
Good, thank you. Quarter revision does not discuss engineering, it'll only be assessment. Okay, any other questions from affected property owners? Seeing none, we'll move on. Are there any requests for those present to add or remove their names from the petition? I see none. Comments and questions from members of the committee of council. Are there any? Yes, Councillor Vink.
Oh, sorry. I know George, special assessment, $37,640 for Southwest Middlesex for a new culvert. So was that culvert needed to be replaced in the near future, or does it have to be larger? Is that why we're getting a new culvert?
Yes, Councillor Vink. So there's a couple things there. The owners upstream complained about the capacity of it and it holding up water, and it's slightly high compared to where we would like the design grade to be. So, you know, you could have the opportunity to lower the culvert, the existing culvert in place, and that would, you know, lower the cost to supply a new culvert. However, based on the capacity and the fact that it is aging, it's not completely through its lifespan, but it's well through its lifespan. It was chosen to do a full replacement with a pipe that's significant amount larger. It's 1,200 currently, and it's proposed to be replaced with a 1,500. So it's almost 50% capacity larger than the existing pipe that would be there.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Council, the decision for first and second reading of the bylaw, if it passes, is what is required. Would someone entertain a motion for that to happen? Councillor Haggett, Councillor McCollum. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Next is the Raycraft Winship drain. If you'd like to introduce this to council, we would appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Worship. We are pleased to present a report on the Raycraft Winship Drain 2024. There was an existing culvert here, which was constructed, I believe in the 70s. I'd have to double check my history there, but it was beginning to fail. It had failed while being used for farming operations and had some emergency repairs completed to it. So this was a request to replace that. As part of that replacement, we've also done some ditch clean out to restore the design grade of the old channel. So for about 400 meters, we're removing sediment that's accumulated in the channel. There's a little bit of cost associated with this project to remove some lawn piping that was there. Historically, there was a home on this lot, and that is being replaced. So just for location, this is on Concession Drive, just west of Big Bend Road. The anticipated cost of this report, including the ditch work and the emergency repairs that were completed previously, is $41,500. And if there's any questions, I would welcome them now.
Okay. Prior to that, are there any questions from affected property owners? Seeing none. Requests from those present to add or remove their names from the petition. There are none. Comments from members of council directed to George. Council, any inquiries? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Question is for George. George, I just wondered, when would you think that this work would be undertaken?
So the first step would be to get through quarter revision here, at which point we would tender. If the municipality wishes, we could tender it with a deadline. So it could be completed this year. Realistically, we'd be looking at probably entering quarter revision in 2 weeks, and then there's essentially a 3-week probably buffer there till you can start taking tenders, and then you could close tenders just as the 40-day appeal window would expire on this. So you could likely be constructing as early as late July, August, and then if the municipality chooses, they could put a date on this tender, as this is their primary access for this field, and the existing access is in a state of disrepair currently.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Council, it's our decision to accept the recommendation. First and second reading of the bylaw is required. It was passed, and we'll deal with that in bylaw section. Moved by Deputy Mayor Schuldeis, seconder Councillor Bink. All in favor? Carried. And we have Concession Drive, a holding symbol to be removed. Alana, you're back with us again here. Introduce council to this application.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So 3427 Concession Drive is zoned a site-specific rural industrial zone with a holding provision M3-3-H-11A within the Southwest Middlesex zoning bylaw. Removal of the H-11A holding provision is contingent on the owner entering into a site plan agreement with the municipality to address developer obligations and responsibilities. The owner has applied for the removal of the holding provision as the site plan agreement has been finalized and registered on title. Since the agreement has been registered, the holding provision is no longer required. Staff are satisfied the site plan process has been completed and are of the opinion that the holding provision can be lifted. A bylaw has been drafted for council's consideration. Staff recommend removing the holding symbol 11 H-11A as it applies to 3427 Concession Drive be granted. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alana. A pile of paper in front of us here, guys. Council, any questions to the planner? Recommendation is to remove the holding symbol H11 as it applies to a portion of the lands known as 3427 Concession Drive be granted. Is there a mover and a second? Councillor Myers, Councillor Choi, discussion. All in favor? Carried. Seven D, Alana is in relationship to 2691 Shield Siding Road. Could you introduce council to the purpose and effect of this application?
Through you, Mayor. Oh, sorry. The purpose and effect of the temporary use zoning bylaw amendment application is to rezone the subject lands from the general agricultural A1 zone to the temporary site-specific general agricultural A1-14-T zone in order to permit 2 single detached dwellings on the subject lands for a period not to exceed 2 years while a new residence is being constructed on the lands. The existing residence would be removed upon the expiration of the 2-year period or the occupancy of the new single detached dwelling, whichever occurs first. The Planning Act allows municipalities to authorize the temporary use of land, buildings, or structures for any purpose that is otherwise prohibited by the zoning bylaw for a maximum of 3 years. The Planning Act also indicates the municipality has the authority to require the owner to enter into an agreement and provide security. The Southwest Middlesex official plan permits bylaws to be passed to permit the temporary use of land subject to criteria. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed temporary use is in conformity with the policy documents and do not have concerns with the proposal. A bylaw and the agreement have been drafted for council's consideration. Staff would like to note the applicant has signed the temporary use agreement. Staff recommend application P5-2024 be granted for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. The applicant has an opportunity to speak if they so wish. Yep, go ahead and Kendra will get you set up there. Perhaps you turn the microphone on there. Yep, you got a red light. You're ready to go.
Jason Pumphrey, the owner of the property. Just want to make it known that at no point in time will this have 2 livable dwellings on this property. There will be, when this new house is built, I will be immediately moving into the new house. I think that is important to note because the way this application is being written, it is implying that I have 2 dwellings on this property. You cannot live in a foundation. You cannot live in an unframed house. I'm living in my existing property just long enough to get into my new property.
Okay, good. Well, Mr. Pumphrey, we're pleased to have you here. It's not our, we really welcome developing that. And I know it seems like a very slow process. It's not our intentions to slow people up. It's just that we are governed by higher levels of governance. And, we can't rewrite the rule book on this, but I know you have a good builder in your possession, and you're knowledgeable about that aspect of that, and we know that it'll be well done. And we thank you very much for your patience on this. And, I know it was required. All right, council, any remarks from council or inquiries? Councillor Myers.
No, I move to support this.
Okay, second for that. Councillor Haggett. Question from Councillor Vick.
Yeah, just a comment. I kind of agree with Bill. Because we're having quite a bit more taxes actually on this property, Phil has to pay an extra cost, quite an extra cost to have this rezoning.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see why we're asking people to rezone for a second residence for 2 years when it would be far better to have them sign a letter saying they would owe so much money if they haven't built it in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a penalty for people who have a second house.
Yeah, all policies have to be reviewed, and that it no doubt needs some consideration. Okay, yes, go ahead. Yeah.
I would like to offer also the fact that before, when I found out that this process was required, I've reached out to multiple members of this council requesting some way to work around this. I understand there is a process that we have to follow. However, as a result of this, I would also like to request council to review the process, because this does seem crazy that I am trying to do something that's going to increase the tax basis for this municipality, and I am being dinged twice. It is a 2-month delay to this building permit so far, plus an $1,800 fee, just so I can get to a point that I can live in a house that's not falling and leaking.
Yeah. Well, we'll discuss this, and our interim CAO is also a planner. We will take advantage of his presence, see what can come in that discussion and in future dialogue.
There's
with the
lots of
county.
counties and municipalities in the adjacent areas that we can review that do not have this requirement. Signing a contract, I'd be all for that.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for your comments. There've been no oral or written submissions. Applicant has had his chance to speak. There's a mover and a seconder on this application. The chair will call. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Pumphrey, very much. Alana, we have a temporary use agreement on Longwoods Road. Could you advise council the purpose and effect of this temporary use zoning bylaw amendment?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So the purpose and effect of the temporary use zoning bylaw amendment application is to rezone the subject lands from the rural residential RR zone to the temporary site-specific rural residential RR-8-T zone to permit a travel trailer on the subject lands for a temporary period not to exceed November 15th, 2024, while a new dwelling is being constructed on the property. The travel trailer would be removed upon the expiration date or the occupancy of the new dwelling, whichever occurs first. The applicants have also requested to allow the travel trailer to have a reduced rear yard depth of 6.09 meters, whereas the rural residential zone requires a minimum rear yard depth of 10 meters. The Planning Act allows municipalities to authorize the temporary use of land, buildings, or structures for any purpose that is otherwise prohibited by the zoning bylaw for a maximum of 3 years. And the Planning Act also indicates the municipality has the authority to require the owner to enter into an agreement and provide security. The Southwest Middlesex official plan permits bylaws to be passed to permit the temporary use of land subject to criteria. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed temporary use is in conformity with the policy documents and do not have concerns. Staff note it was determined it would be appropriate to permit the trailer up until November 15th, as the trailer is not winterized and is not considered a long-term living solution. A bylaw and the agreement have been drafted for council's consideration. Staff would like to note the applicant has signed the temporary use agreement. Staff recommend application P6-2024 be granted for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Alana. The applicant is allowed to speak if they wish to this application. Yes, go ahead. Just grab a chair there, and there's a microphone there. And we just ask you to state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Christine Gagne, my husband Wayne.
I think those are reasonable requests. Jeff, could you clarify that? I think there'd be no issue with that.
I can take the second one and then maybe ask Elena to clarify the first one.
On the second one, if the trailer's not being lived on and it's just there, it's a matter of selling it, it's not a problem to bring it back to the land. So in that case, no problem. And then I think the first question was if your build goes beyond November 15th, would you be able to stay in the trailer through the winter months? Okay.
We wouldn't stay there. We would remove it as required, but could we bring it back in the spring to continue our build? Or do we have to reapply?
So Alana, how long is the term of the agreement, or would it require a new agreement?
So through you, Mayor, to the CAO, so the agreement is, it expires November 15th, 2024. So a new agreement would be required, or perhaps, I guess, amendments to what's put forth so that the applicants could have the opportunity to reside in the trailer again after winter. I think that may be an option.
So, and I'll just try to help to facilitate this so we maybe can deal with it tonight. When would the time for starting reusing the trailer again be? Would it be April 15th? So, and the advice, I guess, then I would ask for the clerk is, can we amend the recommendation to indicate that it's for this year until November 15th, and then next year, April 15th until November 15th?
That would meet your comfort zone there, I think. Yeah, okay.
I think if council wishes to do that, that can be done.
Okay.
We'll make amendments to the existing agreement as long as Elena is comfortable with that.
I think that meet the test of good planning, and it's just a matter of knocking out some bureaucracy. So appreciate that we can clean that up tonight.
Okay, yeah, instead of having it delayed. Council, the recommendation has been amended in favor of the applicant. Is there a mover? Council Deputy Mayor Schuldeis, Councilor Myers. Questions? All in favor? Carried. That'll make life easier for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, council people, deputy mayor, your worship, and of course, our planner, Alana.
Good, thank you.
And if I just can make one comment, it's not related to the resolution, but I'll just like, in terms of storing the trailer over the winter, if you're not living in it, it'll go back to the regular bylaw rules. And so, of course, we wouldn't want you living in it, but the regular bylaw rules for that property, would they allow storage of a trailer? We'll have to check for you. Yeah, we'll check to see, because that'll fall under, it's not being lived in, so it goes back to the standard rules. So we'll just have someone check for you and get back to you about the winter storage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alana, thank you very much. That's a lot of work you've done tonight. Yeah. We have some staff reports ahead of us, council. I think we'll move on as quickly as possible on this. This was an intense agenda. Andrew, thank you for being with us tonight. Could you walk us into the Gould Drain, section 78?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the matter of keeping things timely, this notices have been sent out as a result of last month's meeting after council had accepted this request. My recommendation at this point is that council appoint Sprete and Associates under section 78 as a result of the request that has been filed with the municipality for the Gould Drain, former Mosa Township.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Is there a mover and a second for that, please? Councilor Vink, Councilor McCollum, are there any questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
This question is for Andrew. I know we're a little early in the process here, but do you have an idea when this work would be undertaken? I've been asked by a couple of the landowners.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at this point, the engineer will be appointed. We'll have an on-site meeting, design meeting, consideration, and court of revision. So ultimately, I'm hoping that next year would be the time frame. When next year, I don't know. Probably toward the end.
It seems quite a ways away.
It is, it is. Unfortunately, there's just the nature of how this all unfolds and the requests that we've received. I've pushed it along as quickly as possible. It's just a matter of how that lines up.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? There is a mover and a seconder for this. The chair will call. All in favor? Carried. Mike, do you have a question? Yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah. Andrew, we're on the McTaggart drain, the tender results.
Thank you once again. You will see that the lowest bid was McNally Excavating for $203,318. The start date approximately would be this summer. And the only thing that I would like to point out to council is that there's been a slight revision in the contract, a change order that Spreet has brought to our attention, that the property owner, once the project has been completed, has opted to backfill the ditch on his property with Spreet's supervision to make sure that it is done to their satisfaction. So that's the only thing that would be different at this point. I would recommend that McNally Excavating is awarded this project for the stated amount.
Okay. Council recommendation is before you, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder and then we'll get questions. Councilor McGill, seconder, Councilor McCollum, and questions, council. Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Andrew, we're looking at another one here, an interesting one, the Hagel drain.
Yes,
Section
Mr. Mayor.
4.
It is a little bit different, a little bit unique. This came to council last month for your approval, for your acceptance. This is a multiple property issue, as it seems. The property owner has submitted a petition under section 4 as his property appears to be the lowest point. So at this point, I would recommend that council appoint Spreet Associates under section 4 under the Drainage Act for concession 1, lot 1 of the former Mosa Township, plan 37-5, lot 4 to construct a new municipal drain under the Drainage Act.
Okay. Council, the recommendations before you. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, followed by questions. Councilor Myers. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. What kind of timeline is this gonna be? I know they haven't really looked at it yet, or have they, Spreet looked at it yet? Or-
Not yet, no.
Any kind of ballpark, and because every time it rains down there, people get nervous. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
I'm hoping that it would be similar to the previous report that I have, that potentially be next year.
Okay, yeah, we want to push these along. I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder on this, and then we'll continue questions. Okay, Myers, Haggett, moved it, and continue on with questions. Councilor McGill.
Mayor, to Andrew, how will this be sized? It'll be sized a lot bigger than an ordinary agricultural municipal drain, I guess, more like a storm sewer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, given the scope of the whole project isn't 100% sure, I think it would be very premature to answer that. And I'm not trying to avoid the question at all. It's just, I don't know yet.
Deputy Mayor.
Your question is for you. Looking at the map here, 134 Anderson, which is the corner lot, it's lower right in the corner and it floods quite bad. Will this drain take care of that, or would they need to put a lateral in?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that given the placement and the topography of the land, it could take care of a lot of the surface water. The opportunity would be there if they wanted to put a lateral in after. That's probably more than okay. I think, if a couple of properties in that area wanted to put in some 4-inch Big O even in the future to bolster this, it would work even better.
Will there be a site meeting for them?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, Chair will call it. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Andrew. And Morrow, I know you were involved in this too, to some degree as well. We want to thank you for your interest in this Hagel drain. Notice the motion. I've been advised of none. Correspondence and petitions, I have been advised that there is none. Council, there is no unfinished business. And there is no new business that has been directed to this section of the agenda. County Council and Conference updates forthcoming over the next month. Council, any announcements? Seeing none? Oh, did I miss one? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted council to be aware of this discussion at the Tri-County Water Board of possibly moving towards community or service board. And it's a fairly important decision. I would like all of council to get this information and give us any feedback.
Yeah, okay, yeah, and I'll talk to the clerk about it too, that we want to make sure that those slide presentations that we both witnessed the other night is forwarded. At the moment, Tri-County Water Board is very limited in its operations. Example, it's very difficult for us to borrow money. Okay, we have to go to the different municipalities that are involved, and they debenture it accordingly. Whereas if we were a corporation at the Tri-County Board, we could look after that on our own, and we could assess those costs on water billing to the municipalities. And going forward in the future, it just makes it a lot cleaner. Some examples were given of the efficiencies that it would produce, and they're sizable. And I think it would be extremely beneficial for not just Tri-County, but the municipalities themselves. And yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much. Council, any other issues or announcements? Yep. Kendra, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have an announcement, just acknowledging the First Step and Girl Guides. They are going to Girl Jam in Toronto on May 25th, and it's an Ontario-wide event with over 500 or 5,000 guides attending, and we have a member of staff going as well. So I just wanted to give them a little shout.
I know that your staff are involved in that, and we appreciate that outreach they do. Thank you very much, Kendra, for mentioning that. We wish the girls well. Okay, Dawn, anything you've got? You're okay? All right. Okay, we will move into a closed session at 7:21. Motion to move into closed to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual or individuals, and a position plan, procedure, and criteria or instruction applied to negotiations. Is there a mover and a second? Councillor Myers, Councillor Vink, all in favor? Carried. We'll give Kendra just a moment of time to get us